Right, this is going to be a quick revision session on Ainsworth's strange situation. This was a study in attachment done to investigate the different types of attachment a child can have to its caregiver. Right, okay. I've got a quick mind map here that's going to help us revise all of this. Now we're going to start with the method. Right, the method was split into 7 stages. The first is when the child and his caregiver enter the room and the child is encouraged to explore and play with the toys in the room. So it's in a lab setting. This is an important point to remember, that this was a lab setting. Right. So the child is encouraged to explore the room. Then a stranger enters and tries to interact with the child. Okay. Now all these stages are used and they actually link well to the assessment, and we'll do that in a second. Right. They link to these stages here. We'll do that in a second. Right. So a stranger enters and tries to interact with the child. They see what happens. Then the caregiver leaves, and then they see how the child reacts to that. Then the caregiver returns, right? And the caregiver tries to comfort the child, and the stranger leaves at the same time, like so the child doesn't notice. Then the caregiver leaves as well, and the child is left alone in the room. Then the stranger returns, tries to comfort the child if it's upset, and then the caregiver returns and comforts the child if the stranger was unable to. Right? Okay. Now here, this is the assessment, and this is what they were looking. This is the things that they were trying to measure. Right? So they were trying to see if the parent, the caregiver, acted as a secure base. They could check this through looking at whether or not the child was willing to explore. Right? Okay, so that's what they were checking. They were checking whether or not the caregiver was acting as a secure base for the child. They also checked for stranger anxiety. Stranger anxiety, they checked when the stranger tried to interact with it, as the second stage here. Right? Then they checked for separation anxiety. Separation anxiety, that's the third stage, when the caregiver leaves. Yeah, that makes quite a lot of sense. And then they checked for the reaction of the child when they're reunited. Right? That's when the caregiver returns. Okay? Alright, so this is the 4 basic things that they measured and that they were looking for. Right. Okay, now what they found, these are our findings. What they found was that there was 3 different types of attachment. Type A, which is avoidant. Now, avoidant, there is a few details that we need to know about that, right? Avoidant, what they did is they really wouldn't go back to their parent to use them as a secure base, because they wouldn't really need that they wouldn't need their parent there. They wouldn't need a secure base, and they would avoid that. They would avoid the attachment. They didn't feel much stranger anxiety, and they didn't feel separation anxiety because, again, they're avoidant. They don't really care about the attachment, right? Now I'm saying care, but don't really say that in an essay. Instead, you can say avoidant, insecure avoidant. That's an important word before that. Insecure avoidant, right? They didn't really use the caregiver as a secure base, and they experienced little stranger anxiety, as well as showing no signs of separation anxiety. Further, they didn't need comfort. So they also didn't need to be comforted. They didn't experience much separation anxiety, and so they didn't need to be comforted when the caregiver returned. This is type A, and the way you can remember that, type A, avoidant. Right, that was 20% of children. That's how they reacted. Now type B is securely attached. Now these children, how they would behave is they would use their parent as a secure base, and thanks to that parent, they would be willing to explore, but they would return to the parent every now and again. They would experience strange anxiety, moderate strange anxiety, and they will show separation anxiety, however, again, moderate, and they would be happy at reunion because their caregiver will comfort them. Right, okay. And that was 70% of children. Right? Type C is insecure resistant. Insecure resistant, insecure resistant, what they did is they would they didn't really